Hello, hello. Let me know that you can see and hear me because the way YouTube Live works just still doesn't quite make sense to me. I'm so excited that you are here and that you are excited. Good to see you, Taylor. Heart of Shalom. Rachel, thank you for starting the chat off already. Thank you, Don, for letting me know that it's all working. The tech stuff is always the tricky bit. So, all right, Alice is on the fence for joining Convivial Circle. We have some Convivial Circle ladies here today, so I'm sure they'll be piping up. Make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube channel. When I logged on today, I realized, oh, I am super close to 10,000, and that's pretty fun. So it would be fun if we could just pop it over that fun milestone marker today. So I don't usually say to subscribe, but it'd be fun if you did subscribe. Thank you for that. So the top 3 chatters at the end will also get a sticker pack because I really appreciate you sharing with one another. That's one of the best things about Convivial Circle, our community, is that we're all learning from one another, and we can encourage one another, and we can get perspective from one another. And there is no one right way to homeschool, to have a planner, to set up a cleaning routine, right? You don't need someone to say, here, do this exact thing, and then you'll be set. What you need is mentoring, counseling, advising, so that you can figure out and then apply the right set of practices for your home, for your family. We want to be the kind of women who can see what needs to be done and then do it. That has 2 different pieces. It's not just about overcoming procrastination or laziness and doing all the right things. It's actually first about seeing what needs to be done. And that's a skill that often is overlooked and not really fully trained. The ability to see the needs around you, the ones that you are responsible for fulfilling. So that is one of the main areas that we help with in Convivial Circle. Not telling you exactly what to do, but rather giving you the clarity and vision to see what's actually in front of you so that you can become wise yourself. Right? You can learn from others' wisdom, but what you need is your own wisdom. All right, how many of you have already started school? Has your school year started? Our school year just started this week. So it's Friday. I have to check one more math page and then double check my I only have 2 students this year. I need to double check their checklist. And then we're done with our very first school week. So it's a light week because both of my kids have actually only my high schooler, come to think of it. More than half of his class is with various, co-op, online, whatever, that haven't started yet. So we're doing that slow ramp up thing and getting back into those regular routines. So we actually managed to have a first day of school without tears this year. So that is not the norm in the 18 years that I've been homeschooling. Usually someone has a hard time handling reality. And I think we managed to manage those expectations this year pretty great. But I do know that usually the startup does get tears. If that's the case, you're not necessarily doing something wrong. The kids crying does not mean something is horribly wrong, either with them or with you or with the plan. It might be a signal that it is, but really, like if the kids aren't crying at some point, they're probably not really being challenged in learning. That's my opinion. The tears indicate where we need to be applying ourselves and paying attention and working with them. It's an indicator. It's like a red flag goes up and you're like, ah, now we know where we need to be working. And mom tears count. That's right. Sometimes it's mom tears. Yes. Naomi says, we had tears, but things seem to be smoothing out. I think of it as like the snow globe thing, where the little flakes are our issues, our sin, our misunderstandings, our weaknesses. And when we're challenged or hard things happen, they get shaken up. But when they're shaken up, you can see them and start to pick them out and deal with them. Whereas if nothing ever gets disturbed, you can just kind of skate by and it looks like everything's clear because it's all kind of hidden on a bottom layer that you never see. It's all still there, though. All that stuff is there. It's just things happen and then it's shaken up so that you see it and it feels like a chaotic disaster. But it's actually the opportunity then to see what's there and deal with it. All of that was not actually on my agenda for talking about, but here we are. This is the school year. We are going to be looking at our routines this year. I have a fun brand new announcement at the end, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to try out something that I've not done before. So stay tuned for that. So this workshop is a 3-step routine refresh for happier homeschool days. Now, I'm not going to tell you exactly what your routine should be. This isn't, here's my 3-step routine that you should do too. We are going to talk about the mindset, the perspective, and the understanding that we need to be able to figure out what each of our routines should be. So this is a 3-step process to evaluate your routine and see how to adjust it with wisdom. So there are 3 pieces that we need to have just kind of in our own brain to be able to evaluate what we should do next and how we can be better, more consistent homeschoolers without losing our mind and going crazy and having day after day of mom tears, right? Fewer mom tears because we've changed our perspective, we've organized our attitude, and we are knowledgeable enough, we're capable enough to go through this 3-step routine reboot as often as we need to. Was it Lauren in the chat just saying they were getting ready to get started with their school year and then her dad passed away? Like that's huge. That's going to change the whole school year, and that's okay. These are the circumstances that God has given you right now, and we don't fight them. We work with them because this is the day-to-day set of responsibilities and the path of growth that God is sending us in particular. So we don't figure out how to have a plan, a setup that is going to move forward no matter what. That's not what we're about. We're not about controlling our circumstances or other people. We are about more self-control. That's the only kind of control that you're supposed to have. Self-control, not situation control, not control of how other people respond to you what other people do, but actual control of what you do and how you respond to people. And that perspective changes everything right there. But we're going to talk about 3 other things today. That one's not the thing we're talking about today. Yes, Kathy says sometimes life is the most important lesson that our kids need. That is a huge benefit of homeschooling. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is how to handle homeschool life because things do get off track so easily. It doesn't have to be as dramatic as a family death, but it can be as dramatic as that to throw everything off. Sometimes it's just a child teething. Sometimes, surprise, we're in the first trimester. As we are, starting off that school year, all kinds of things, happy and sad, can throw us off track. And sometimes it's just like it's the 5th gray day in a row and there is no energy at all, right? There are so many things that can throw us off. That's reality. And sometimes in order to fix that, we try controlling those circumstances and try to find the path or the routine that makes it so that we never get thrown off again. But that is not possible. Like, that's only going to make us more frustrated. So our 3 steps that we're going to talk about today, actually on this slide, they're in a different order. I don't know why. Our 3 steps are shortcut your own strong start. That's actually the second thing we're going to talk about. That's the biggest doing thing that we're going to talk about today. Start your school day strong. Get it started. It's not going to always start at the exact same time. It doesn't have to be the exact same time. Everyone else doesn't have to be doing the exact same thing, but every day, every school day, school has to get started. And that's actually on us. We can be frustrated at our kids for making it difficult, but getting the day started is actually on us. The second thing on this list, but actually the first thing we're going to talk about in this workshop, is redefine consistency. So sometimes I think we just kind of get into a default assumption, like consistency is good, we want consistency, but then we get a picture of it in our heads that is completely off base from what we actually need to be doing. And if we get a wrong picture, a wrong definition of what we are supposed to be shooting for with consistency, we can be seeing every school day as a failure when it's actually a success. So we have to have the right goals in mind. We have to have the right perspective on our day and our responsibilities and our life so that we don't get into discouragement mode when everything's actually great. When we're doing the work and showing up, we need to count that as a success, no matter that it didn't meet our idealistic expectations. So we're going to get more into that in this workshop. And then the third step is actually something we need to be doing weekly, and that is iterating. Iterating is our favorite word inside Convivial Circle because life changes, our kids' needs change, our circumstances change, our situations change, and that means we need to change. And this again goes back to, what does it mean to be consistent? What does consistency really mean? We can consistently iterate, which means adjusting your expectations and your plan and your lists and your actions based on your evaluation of your current circumstances. So we have to bake that in to our routine. Bake in iteration. Expect to iterate. Count it as success when you do iterate. Instead of thinking the old plan was bad because it didn't continue to work. No, you were totally expecting to adjust as you go. That's iteration. That's something we can all get good at. In fact, I would love for those of you in here who are in convivial circle, and so iteration is your favorite word, it's something you do all the time. I would love for you to share an example in the chat of something you've iterated in your homeschool already. And maybe that's iterated this year over last year. Maybe that is iterated already. You know, you've had the first week and you're like, well, that did not go like I expected. So let's iterate. Like we have the next step to do. Okay. Amber says iteration means try again. Okay, I'll give a quick definition, but we will cover this more as the third step in our workshop. To iterate is to take the next step. So it's not just trying the same thing over again. It's actually a pause to evaluate where you have been, what has happened, how things worked, and then you make a course correction, an adjustment. So it's not just doing the same thing over and over again. But rather changing so that you can continue to move toward a final destination. So you don't just stand at the beginning, the starting point, look to the finish line and go and have a plan for how to get there. And it just happens automatically. As long as you go, you're going to get there. We're not, life is not a track where if you stay between these two lines, you will definitely wind up at the finish line if you start. It's more like we're sailing on an ocean. And so so iteration would be the process of using navigational skills to figure out where you are and how to adjust your course to get to where you want to be. But we assume that life is like a track when it's actually an ocean and we're a sailing ship. Like it's an active process. It's not an autopilot kind of process. Okay, more on that later in the workshop. Homeschooling is hard work, and we have to treat it like our legitimate job. This is another mindset thing that is so easy to fall into. We think, okay, the mom, we've got all these things people need to eat. We have to clean up. We have to educate the children. And, homeschooling is just like one of the things, just like doing the dishes or the laundry, which is also a legitimate job. But we treat it as all equal. And usually we get started with homeschooling before we've even fully gotten on top of executing the housework like a legitimate job. So we're all just kind of scrambling and getting behind on everything all the time because we kind of think it should all just happen. I should be able to make a list and then everything should just happen. It shouldn't be this hard. If I have it figured out, if I have the right curriculum, if I have the right routine, it should just happen. But no. Running a house is hard work. It's a legitimate job. And homeschooling is hard work and a legitimate job. We're juggling multiple jobs. And so that's going to require effort. It's going to require us to expand our capacity, to become better at doing more, paying attention to a lot of things. And so that is the initial expectation that we have to have in place, that homeschooling will require us to work. But it's good work. So some of you perhaps have landed here because a friend invited you or you just saw it was live on YouTube. Quick introduction and how I know that homeschooling is hard work. I'm Misty Winkler. I have a podcast and several books and a blog, and I send emails all the time encouraging Christian homemakers to do their work well and cheerfully, to expand our ability to be competent, engaged, and actually love the work that God has given us to do because it is good work. All right, now my little thing is in the way again. My husband and I have 5 kids. 3 have graduated from our homeschool. 2 are in college at New St. Andrews College here in Moscow. 1 is a real estate agent, married and expecting his second baby. So I'm a grandma. 2 are left at home. I have a high schooler and a middle schooler still to go. And also my husband and I were homeschooled. I was homeschooled from the very beginning. I never went to any kind of classroom until college. And that was back in the 80s and 90s when it was super weird. So I have experience as a homeschool student as well as a homeschool mom. And I'm the oldest of 7. Been around the homeschool world for a long, long time. And so I've seen a few things. I've learned from not just my experience, but friends, my mom, my mother-in-law, their friends, and there are definitely trends and pitfalls that are so tempting to fall into for all of us. But nothing is new. It's hard. It's real work, and we can do this. I don't use any particular curriculum or book. That's one thing, people are always asking, like, well, what curriculum do you use? And it's like, whatever I want to, whatever is working for us right now. So if you have been homeschooling for a few years, or maybe just in the homeschooling world for a while, then maybe you know the roller coaster of a typical week. You start off and it's Monday and everything seems great. You're ready to go. Let's get started. And then you can't find the materials that you need. The kids have lost everything. No one knows where anything is. Everything's disappeared over the weekend. All right, try again the next day. We'll pull it together. We found everything. Like Tuesday is our new Monday. Let's go. And then you spend, most of the day actually in counseling rather than teaching mode. That's what it feels like, right? You have to take out the 3-year-old for discipline. You have to, some of the things that we had. I had 2 kids 2 years apart that were the same level in math. That required counseling, all kinds of things. Then, midweek you're looking around and it's like, oh, look at all the children reading books. Just like when I remember my son being up in a tree, doing his schoolwork up in a tree outside on a sunny day. And you're like, this is the homeschooling life. This is awesome. This is why we do what we do. Then, the baby's up all night teething and there is like not enough coffee in the world to keep going the rest of the week. So you're like, well, we homeschool, so we're just going to watch videos on Friday for school and maybe go to the park and call it quits. And then, you have enough of these just highs and lows and ups and downs all in one day, much less one week. And it's easy to start feeling like I am not cut out to homeschool, right? Who has ever felt like they are not cut out to homeschool? I hear it all the time from women. I don't think, someone said, why are you spying on my week? I'm like, this is normal, okay? That's why I put this on here, because this is normal. And so part of our expectation problem is that we think it should be a straight line. There shouldn't be ups and downs. We should just go from point A to point B. And if we just got the right plan, if we just had the right routines, maybe if we had the right children, It could be a straight line instead of all these ups and downs. But homeschooling is parenting intensified. Homeschooling and parenting are about working with people. We are people, our children are people, our home is full of people, and people are up and down. This is normal. We should expect this. We should be willing to work with this, roll with the punches, go with the flow, not like just let the emotional turmoil lead, but rather expect there to be emotional turmoil and know that you can handle it, that you can guide those lows back up to the highs. Not that the high will stay, but that you'll get a lot of practice. You'll be able to get practice. You'll be able to get good at going from the low to the high because you'll go to the low again and get to try again. Repeat, right? I assume you're here at a homeschooling workshop because you actually do want to homeschool. You love homeschooling. You want to be with your kids. And even though the days are long and hard, they are rewarding. You just need to know that it's worth it. You want to be reminded that it's worth it. And so I will tell you, as a homeschool graduate and as a homeschooling mom with graduates, it's totally worth it. You are most likely not messing up your children. It's all worth the work. Keep at it, mom. Yes, Judy says, this is so accurate. I homeschooled for nearly 30 years and it was like this every year. Now I teach at a homeschool co-op and it's still like that. This is people. Expect your people to be human. That's right, Rachel. So you picture days filled with books and conversation and nature study and all those good things. And probably your days are filled with these things. But we notice all the things in our days that aren't the way we like it to be, right? We tend to notice the negative more than we notice the positive. And it's the same thing with our kids. We look at our kids and we're homeschooling so that they will learn to be honest, virtuous, diligent people. And then in the day-to-day, we look at them and you're like, but you're not. Wait, it was supposed to be as easy as keeping you home, keeping you from bad influences, and that was going to do the trick. It's like, no, that doesn't do the trick. You have to actually instruct. You have to actually give them opportunities to practice, and they will fail. And it's the moments of failure that are the teaching moments so that they can gain honesty, virtue, diligence. I mean, those are honesty and diligence are virtues, but it takes 18 or so years to develop a person into an adult. So it's not just going to be on the agenda item for 1 year. And you're like, and then, so we'll do our virtue curriculum, and then the rest of our homeschool is going to be awesome because the outcome will be I will have virtuous children and it'll be easy sailing. Nope. You're going to be actually parenting and discipling and counseling for the whole time that your kids are in your house. Again, realistic expectations. Your mornings probably never feel as on target, energetic, or efficient as you had planned them out to be, right? And so how often do you wait for the next day to start, hoping that maybe the next day you can start on target with that right caffeinated level, ready to just get things done? The more kids you add to the mix, basically the more people. Like you're a person. For a lot of the homeschool years that we were homeschooling, my husband also worked from home. He's a person. Then we had 5 people, so 7 people total. There's always someone who is not on the ball. You just have to stop expecting, or you have to stop waiting for everyone to be on the ball together to count it as a success. Yes, Rachel says, I get stuck in wishful thinking planning. That's what we talk all about inside Convivial Circle, because we all do. It's so, like, the plan can look so nice on paper. And then we can spend our time daydreaming about how great it can be. And it can be great if our expectations are properly aligned. And we need properly aligned expectations. And we need to count the real progress that's happening instead of always seeing how things could be better. We spend way too much time basically being Debbie Downers in our own head, discounting the work that we are doing because it's not lining up with our imaginations. This is a saying that a friend of ours always uses, and so it's become kind of a family motto for us as well as our friends. The dream is different from the reality. You have the dream. You can't spend all your time waiting for reality to match your dream or judging the reality as bad because it doesn't match your dream. It's good to dream, but the dream is different from the reality. You can be okay with that. You can still move on with that truth. So, again, you can already see from our conversation already, and the ladies in the chat, our perspective on our days needs a bit of an adjustment, and you're not the only one. This isn't just you. This is not a you problem. This is a people problem. This is my youngest daughter and my grandbaby. That was a fun photo to use. Yes, that's right. You are not the only one. People have problems and so much awesomeness too. That's right. So you are not the only one who has high standards, and then you're tempted to give up because things are not meeting your standard. You are not the only one who doesn't want to get started until you have everything all figured out. You are not the only one who gets frustrated because other people are always messing up your plans. And you are not the only one if you are beginning to think the planning is just a waste of time because the plans never work out the way you wanted. This is all totally normal behavior. We are all tempted to this all the time. And so that's how we need to know how to handle perfectionism. These are all perfectionist traits. Originally, I thought of perfectionism as being someone who insisted on straight lines and always actually did everything perfectly. When really a perfectionist tendency is anytime we hold ourselves to some kind of perfectionist standard that we aren't meeting. All right. It looks like my slide didn't change when I clicked the other slide. I tell you what. Are my slides not going to change anymore? I should probably keep talking or you'll think that you lost sound. All right, I'm going to try switching and then going back. There we go. Hello, perfectionist. Maybe I'm being a perfectionist here because my slides are not doing what I wanted them to do. My computer is not doing what I wanted it to do. We have to roll with the punches and keep going. So perfectionism is any time you hold yourself to some kind of standard and do not accept that anything can be good at all until it's perfect. And that will be an obstacle to you. That will end up killing your progress. And one way that perfectionism kills our progress is that we keep trying new things. We think, well, that thing didn't work. This is my other daughter and same grandbaby. We think that one thing didn't work. I'll try a new thing because there's something that will finally make things work perfectly. And so you try someone else's plans. You print out the sheets and do what someone else says will work. You try scheduling and laying everything out so it all fits. You try the spiral notebooks. You try reward systems. Like you scour the internet for all the things, all the plans, and try them, and none of them work. And then you want to give up. And so our perspective shift that we're going to get into, we will get into it, I promise. The setup is longer than the answer here. All those things that you tried actually aren't failures. If you're trying everything and nothing works, and so you try something totally different, that's perfectionism in action. And the way that you get out of perfectionism is to iterate. And the first step of iteration is recognizing the progress that happened in each of those imperfect implementations. And then you don't try to completely start over from scratch or totally fix everything. You make a small adjustment to continue to move forward. So, you can't fit everything into a day, right? Everything's not the same. There's so much on your to-do list that it feels impossible to prioritize all the things. And we keep looking for those systems that will make all the things happen and get done. And then we're frustrated when things don't get all done. But there is no system out there that's going to make everything get done all the time. Consistency won't do that for you. There is no such kind of perfectionist consistency out there. There are a million things for you to do every day. And if you try to figure out how to get them all done, the most likely thing that will happen is that you will never get started. And this is why we are talking today about what is consistency. It's not perfectionism. What is consistency? How do you get started? Because your perfectionism will prevent you from starting. And then how do you iterate? That is, learn from those imperfect steps and continue to take more steps. You don't want to build a house, build your plans without a foundation. You can only see the part above ground, but the part above ground has no stability at all if it's not on a foundation. I don't know. I just wanted to use the building metaphor because I have all these pictures of the house that we are currently building, that my husband is currently building. There you can see him on the roof. The foundation of our homeschool day is us as the homeschool mom. It isn't the curriculum. It isn't the kids' habits. The foundation of our homeschool is us and our ability to act as an executive in the homeschool day. Making judgment calls, changing plans, keeping things on mission, even as it looks like they're going haywire. So your personal habits are the foundation of your homeschool day. But we've got to talk about them and work on them without getting pummeled by perfectionism. You're like, then people start clicking off like, no, this is not what I want to hear. Well, stay, because I have more pictures of our house, okay? And I'm going to give away more stickers, so you should stay. All right, so what are those foundation blocks? What do you build your homeschool on? I mean, you build it on Christ, right? Christ is working in you for your sanctification. That's kind of the whole point of the convivial homeschool, right? It's not about getting a perfect result, looking towards that outcome. It's about God working in us, which is another way of saying it starts with us. So this slide had 5, so I had to make it 5. So the 3 things we're going to talk about today are sandwiched in the middle. You have to know your direction and your purpose and your priorities. You do need to have a compass. And we've talked about that in previous workshops. And we talk about that in my course, Art of Homeschooling, inside Convivial Circle. The first step is knowing where you're going. Once you know your direction and where you're going and why, then you have to have a proper understanding of the kind of consistency you are actually working on and not be beaten up by wrong definitions, wrong goals. Then you need to give yourself a specific startup routine, and you need to evaluate and adjust weekly. That's iterating. And you're just going to keep doing that, because during your weekly adjustments, you're going to revisit your purpose and priorities. You should have that written out. We're not covering that in this workshop. That is covered in other of my material. I like to have you write things. So a statement of your purpose and priority, that's a very helpful thing to review as you adjust. And then you just keep reminding yourselves of truth. You keep starting, you keep adjusting. So consistency. What does it mean to be consistent? Usually, we, by default, equate consistency with sameness. So we evaluate whether or not we're consistent based on whether or not we're doing the same thing over and over and over again, right? You might give a better definition if asked, but if you're evaluating, am I consistent or not, you are probably asking yourself, did we do the exact same thing today that we did yesterday? Or at least, did we do the same thing Monday that we did last Monday, which is the exact same as what's on my list of what to do on Monday? So we want to have a rigorous standard, right? And so we think, well, I'm only consistent if I perfectly follow my plan again and again and again and again. This is a consistency that we're going to have accompaniment. This is a consistency that, all right, I got thrown off by my background piano player. This is a long piece. So our definition of consistency becomes informed by factory metaphors. We think of ourselves as cranking out an end product. And then we judge whether or not we're doing well based on whether or not the exact same widget came out at the end. We have a mechanical, factory, industrial metaphor for ourselves and for our homeschool, for our life. And we think of consistency in terms of a factory being able to turn out the exact same part over and over again, no matter what, on schedule. Turn on the power, it just works. All the pieces go through or come out the exact same way. That's not a metaphor for people. We don't work with that kind of consistency, and our children aren't that kind of product. They aren't really our product to begin with. And they aren't going to be the exact same coming out of our homeschool. We know that. That's one reason why we're homeschooling. And yet this kind of factory model of what efficiency and consistency and working is like informs our imagination in unhelpful ways. That's right. Sameness is boring. So that doesn't mean that we could throw out consistency altogether. Because there are actually better meanings of consistency. Actually, if you look, guess what? I looked it up in the dictionary because I like to do that. The sameness and equality actually is only a specific math definition of consistency. There are 5 main meanings of the word consistent. One of them is specific to math, and it means all the equations come out to the same answer. The like normal English human meaning of consistency means compatibility, being in agreement, being coherent, being reliable, being steady. Those are actually very different things than being same, right? Again, this means if you have an end goal, a desire, something you're working toward, consistency changes based on where you are at and who you're working with and what's going on to be moving toward that goal. So, like if you're consistent with, well, let's say, if you use the phrase, I'm a consistent Christian, that actually doesn't mean you're doing the same things every day, right? It means that your life and your theology match, right? They're in agreement, they're compatible. And so think about your homeschool. Are the actions that you're taking in your day compatible with what you are wanting out of your education? Is the work that you're doing in alignment with your philosophy of education? How you think education works, what kind of outcome you expect from education, what is an educated person? Are the actions that you're taking day over day consistent with that belief? That's what we should be asking. Not are we doing the exact same thing all the time? Because if you are going to remain consistent with your beliefs about education, then probably what you are going to do every day will change. The methods, the applications change when the principles don't. And we want to stay consistent with our principles, not necessarily consistent with actions and methods. And we do want to be reliable and steady, but again, that's not the same thing as exact same. Reliable and steady means you keep going. You keep working. Again, you keep iterating, and we'll be going back to that. I've got a lot more slides, so let's speed it up a bit. So consistency does not mean doing the exact same thing every morning, doing the exact same thing every week, or doing the exact same thing with each child. It does mean you do get started in the morning. You do something, right? You're not doing nothing. You are reliable. You are renewing your plan each week. You're coming back to your plan. You're not throwing it out the window and just giving up. Giving up is when you become inconsistent. It is inconsistent to give up. It is consistent to adjust and adapt your plan. And then, of course, it's also consistent to educate each child in accordance with what he needs. Not, well, because I did this with child number 1, I have to do the exact same thing with number 2 to be consistent. Every child needs a little bit something different. That's why we homeschool in the first place. So consistency does require starting, and starting is the hardest part. Starting is hard. Starting is harder the more perfectionist we are. So perfectionism is what makes starting hard, because perfectionism says, don't get started till you know exactly what's going to happen and that it will all work out. Like, don't flip on the power until you know that the machine's set up and will crank out all the widgets. And we're not factory machines. We are woodworkers who probably don't even have power tools. So there is no electrical switch to flip. There's a bunch of hand tools, some wood, and an idea of what we're going toward. We need to actually do something with that wood for it to turn into anything. That's starting. It's not flipping a switch so that things begin autopilot happening. Like I said, starting is the hardest part. And that's one reason why we want to figure it out and make it. We want it to be some kind of switch that we flip, because that would be easier than just doing something. So how do we get ourselves started? We do need some hacks to get ourselves started. Especially the more stuck in perfectionism you have been, the more hacks you need to get yourself out of the perfectionism rut. Setting an alarm is super helpful. You have to actually go with it when it comes. I'll tell you, I've set a lot of alarms that I've ignored, and then that's not good. That's not consistent. That's not steady or reliable, right? We need to be reliable. So an alarm, if we follow it, helps us be reliable. And then it's super helpful to get started if you have a first action that has zero resistance. So something that's super easy. If you've read Atomic Habits, he uses don't make your habit that you're working on running half a mile. Make it I'll put on my shoes. Pull it back to the very first super easy, simple, you can't argue about it task. And just think about that. And then that will set in motion the next things. You're setting yourself up to move forward with the next thing, but you have something that you do first. So you have an alarm and you know exactly what you're going to do first when that alarm goes off. And it's not the hardest thing. It's the first thing to get started. Put yourself into the right frame of mind. And then the other thing that helps us get started reliably in the morning and pull our kids together to do the things is to not start the day by hunting for what you need, right? Give the things that you need a home. Know what you need to get started and give them an easy to access home so that you don't get swamped and carried away and distracted by just trying to find what you need. You want to get started with something that is moving you forward, not with a distraction, not with basically makeup work, right? If things aren't where they should be, then you're starting by doing what should have been done the day before. That's not really moving forward. So I like that. That's kind of there can be all kinds of other issues going into that. But what is the first thing that you need? And make it as simple as possible. Streamline that. If you streamline that, you're going to get more progress, more bang for your buck out of that than super refining the kids' checklists. Right? So for most of our homeschooling career, things are different now with just 2 big kids. But when we were homeschooling everyone, I would have a song play automatically. We had house speakers and a song would play, and all of us had to be at the table with our things before the song was over. So it was like a 3-minute warning that kept playing, right? Songs are great that way. And then I had to be at the table with my phone for playing music and my binder for morning time, my morning time binder, but everything I needed was in the binder. So I just needed my phone and my binder. If it was a good day, I also had a pen and coffee and water. But the first, if I had my phone and my binder and we could get by with just my binder, we were good to go. It was simple. I didn't have to overthink it. I didn't have to hunt for a bunch of stuff or a stack of stuff or keep track of a stack of stuff. That was all it took. My first thing with just 2 big kids is having my planner at the table, and they have to bring me their stuff, and one has online classes and the other, they're just kind of all doing their thing, and I have to be available. Like I told you, what was my first thing when I was homeschooling 4, 5, and then 4, and then 3 kids? Um, that worked for a long time, but it doesn't work for forever. And so I thought, well, I saw this picture. It was my son at a piano recital. And, it's kind of the same thing to become a skilled piano player. You don't do the exact same thing all the time. Like you do play scales, but the scales get harder and they change. Your teacher adapts what you need to be working on based on how well you're doing with what you already know. And it's the same thing in life. What we do doesn't stay the same because life doesn't stay the same and because our skills and our ability doesn't stay the same either. We should be continually challenged and pushed and expanding our capacity. And then other times we need to circle the wagons and, things happen that also decrease our capacity for a time. You have to be like the piano teacher, evaluating how things are going and figuring out what should we be working on next to get you toward, increasing in skill, increasing in skillfulness. Sometimes that will be practicing a hard piece. Sometimes that will be you need to just really do just the scales. It doesn't feel productive. You're not doing anything you will ever be able to perform. It feels repetitive. But you have to really practice this to be able to take your next step. Right? Think of yourself like a master piano teacher. Not the kind of piano teacher that just says, do the next page in the workbook, but the kind that is working with a good student, trying to get them somewhere. That's what we should be with ourselves. That can be hard to do with yourself. That's why we have Convivial Circle, where we can help coach one another in those ways. But that's also what we should be for our children as well. It's not just do the next workbook page no matter what. It's, okay, where are we at? What do you need to work on next? Okay, because you messed that up, we're going to do this. Because you nailed that, we're going to give you something harder. And it's always going to feel hard. It should always be work. If it got easy, like no one would be growing. Growth is always hard. I don't know how to teach piano, but I've sat in on enough lessons to know that I could never teach a piano student anything. These are the skills of homeschooling with the right kind of consistency and iterating. Having that definition of consistency that is human, people-oriented, caretaking-oriented, not machine-oriented, focusing on ourselves and getting started, just putting in the reps, but also knowing what reps we should be putting in. And to do that, we need to iterate. This is why I gave the free Homeschool Weekly review sheet as a thank you gift for sharing this workshop. And you can still get that. You can use the share button here on YouTube. You can forward the same emails that you got with the link, or text a friend, or like whatever. Take a screenshot and post it on Instagram, and you can tag me because my link in bio is to this workshop. If you share it and then you email support@simplifiedorganization.com, then I'll send you that free Homeschool Weekly review sheet, which helps you look back at how the week went and move forward with that iterative mindset rather than just seeing all the things that you didn't get done. You need to look back and see what you did get done. That's huge. Someone says, I think if you say that consistency is not sameness, and 10 more times I'll start to get it. We talk about that. I mean, we need that in every area of life, right? Not just homeschooling, but with chores, but with decluttering, but with our attitudes, everything in life. We need it applied to every area of life, and it does take a lot of repetition. That's why I say repent, rejoice, repeat. The repeat part's important. Yes. I do have a homeschool audit that you can work through as well. It does take time to do it. But I want to try something a little bit different right now. I've never done anything like this, but we are starting a new school year. There are a lot of changes. This is a great time to evaluate our personal habits, like our start habits, to evaluate our mindset habits, and to really use this coming season of going back to routines to practice the things we need to practice, to grow ourselves so that we can help our children to grow. And so inside Convivial Circle, we're about to start our Humble Habits course, which is all about mom's habits, mostly the habits of starting the day. So those, and we call them humble habits because they are the tiny, tiny things, not the big picture. Like the end result is I want to be running half a mile 3 times a week, but the getting up and putting on your shoes, the things that lead to more and stronger and better habits. The starting, we're practicing recognizing and rejecting perfectionism is really what Humble Habits is all about. It's not about here, do this checklist and everything will work out. Humble Habits is about recognizing all those places where perfectionism is creeping in and condemning you, and rejecting it and replacing it with humble progress, consistent, true, consistent progress, not false, consistent attempts. So you'll start to get some emails about that. If you're already in Convivial Circle, this is the active accountability path. So you can make sure that you're signed up for that to get the extra emails and accountability that go with Humble Habits. As we get started, we'll have a kickoff workshop next week, and we will talk more about noticing perfectionism and getting a proper kind of consistency for ourselves, because we really can't pass on to our kids anything that we don't already have ourselves. We do need to start with ourselves. So if you are not in Convivial Circle, we would love to have you do Humble Habits with us starting next week. You should start now, because then maybe there's enough time to do our quick Homemaking 101 orientation course before we jump into Humble Habits. From now until next week, when we start Humble Habits, the first 25 brand new people who join Convivial Circle, I'm going to do a personal homeschool routine audit. If you join, I will send you a link to a form that you'll fill out for me to evaluate, and I will send you back by email some feedback on your homeschool routine. I've never done kind of custom personal feedback like that, so this is a little bit of an experiment, so I'm limiting it to the first 25 people who join in the next week, starting now. So I'll reach out to those who have joined for the first 25 and give you how to start this homeschool routine audit. We will also be talking about this process and this criteria if you're already in Convivial Circle. If I'm kind of using this as an experiment, and we'll see how it goes and how I can offer more things like this. If you're in Convivial Circle, then you know that you don't really need to be told exactly what to do. You have the principles and you can apply it. So we'll be having these conversations in Convivial Circle, especially with Humble Habits, since we're doing it with the start of the homeschool year. These conversations will also be happening in our kickoff workshop, and I'll start something in the chit chat space as well so that we can talk through this kind of audit process. But my goal for you in Convivial Circle is to be able to do this kind of audit for yourself, right? That you don't need some kind of guru to tell. I'm not a guru. You don't need an expert. I'm also not an expert. But sometimes that's what we think we need or think we want, when really we have to be growing in the wisdom to understand these things ourselves. And we're all working on that in Convivial Circle. I've seen so much. This is already happening. And so we'll be doing some of this process as I'm doing it for others. I'll be like telling you, like, look at this, like, think about this on your plan, because I really want to be equipping you, each of you, to be wise, discerning women who are exercising wisdom and understanding in your own location, seeing what the needs are in front of you, and walking in intelligent faithfulness yourself, not just following someone else's checklist. That's not the goal. The goal is independent wisdom. And that's what we practice inside Convivial Circle. And I would love to have you join us. So the first 25 people who join between now and next week, I'll reach out to you and give you this process to start a personalized audit. And just keep your eye in Convivial Circle if you're already a part. Let me just real quick give you a sneak peek. I know sometimes it's tricky just to even know what you're getting into, especially with a community. We have a community with a bunch of courses. So if you join Convivial Circle, this is what you see. This is what it looks like on the back end. This is our one small win section, which is kind of our default section, because we need to spend more time noticing what went right and stop ourselves from only noticing what goes wrong. So we have wins here and people respond. Sometimes they get conversation. This is what the course looks like if you join. So there are modules and lessons. There are PDFs that you can download, lessons to read, instructions to follow. And this is how our courses work. There are some videos, words, examples. We've iterated these courses a ton over the years to just make them more and more helpful, more and more specific, and applicable. So Homemaking 101 is just 3 modules. It's our shortest course, and we usually recommend people get started with that one. We have a lot of chat spaces. So the Share One Small Win was a chat space, and our chat spaces work just like a conversation. Like a party is happening. All these ladies are together in a room having a conversation, and you don't have to know everything that was said before. So this is why I like the chat spaces more than like a post and comments or like a forum, because we're just chatting. We're talking about whatever is happening, whatever on our mind. You can reply to something specifically, and then it pops up on the side. So this, like Michelle here is talking about, like, should I keep using the planner that I have, or I'm kind of tempted to try this other thing? And then people replied to her. we do have some posts as well. You can share hot tips or ask for hot tips. There's kind of both going on here. Um, our replay hub, every week I get on live. Let's see, that's here. We have a monthly topic. August topic is priorities. There's a chat going on all about priorities. And then we have live events, kind of like this, except just 20 minutes every week talking about our monthly topic. And the replays go into the hub. And we have meetups every month on Zoom. We have a lot of stuff going on that all is here to help encourage you to grow in wisdom and application for your particular callings right now, to figure out what that is and move forward in it step by step. It's not like, here, implement this program and then you'll have it all figured out. We're all always figuring it out, and this is like a support group for continuing to figure out what's next. That's Convivial Circle, and we would love to have you join us. I'm already over time, so just go to convivialcircle.com. You can find out more. I'll be sending out emails, follow-up emails about Humble Habits and about Convivial Circle. Convivial Circle has a lot of resources. You're not meant to do them all at once. There are different people at different places, and there are different times where more or less of it's applicable or, possible for you. That's totally okay. Anytime you can send me or our community manager, Stephanie, a DM and ask, like, where should I be focusing? Like, here's my situation. I don't even know what I should be doing. And we will help steer you. We won't tell you exactly what to do, but we will offer you advice and give you some direction. Sometimes it's just, get the member-only replay and just listen to some stuff right now. You'll get clear. Just like put some good thoughts into your head. Be careful of what you're thinking and telling yourself. Changing your thoughts and being careful of what you focus on is like our go-to thing we are always practicing inside Convivial Circle. Pretty much every course covers that, because we all need to be practicing that and getting better at not letting our thoughts run away with us. That's huge. So we would love to have you join us. Watch for those follow-up emails or go to convivialcircle.com. And I will also be letting you know more about that homeschool audit process for the first 25 people to join in the next week. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I would appreciate it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can then get notified when I do more lives like this, and I publish episodes usually about twice a week on YouTube or my podcast. All right. Talk to you all later. I hope to see you soon inside the community.